Congratulations to the Florida State Seminoles on their live championship for 2023. Hold your heads high. Only the worthiest of champions can take home the live championship.
The following segments are a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast.
以下片段是 Smacking Off 播客的演示。
And now, Smacking Off the podcast.
And welcome back to Smacking Off the Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Madden. I'm joined with Doug Phillips, my co-host and producer. And we are going to talk all night about what a great coach Jim Harbaugh is. This is going to be
joke
my
if you
favorite segment.
Joke about it if you want. Joke about it if you want. This is definitely the best Michigan team I've ever seen in my lifetime.
No, I'm not joking. That was, it really was a complete and dominant performance. I mean, Alabama.
Alabama could have won the game still, though.
They could have. They were, and their coaching staff. I know Tommy got kind of thrown under the bus there in the. Why am I dinging? Am I dinging or are you dinging?
I think we're all dinging. All God's children are dinging.
Fuck me. Anyways, yeah, there were some games that happened, and we're going to talk about them. That's what we do here. We talk about games. Yeah, we kind of do. We talked a lot of shit about Alabama. Actually, I think really out of all of the Alabama fans that I personally know, I think we've been rather realistic on this show throughout the whole entire season. Your thoughts?
Sean, you give them your thoughts because you were at the game.
Sean Devine and Dr. Balls, one Robert Arthur, are joined with us.
Hey, gentlemen. Good evening. How we doing?
Sean Devine was there, boots on the ground, correct?
I was.
What was that all about? What was that like? Of course, that was not your first Rose Bowl.
No, that was first Rose Bowl. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you popped your cherry. Congratulations.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. Got to get a quick hand clap on that. Yeah.
So, go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say you got to understand Sean Devine's hatred for Michigan to realize that getting his cherry popped this particular time probably wasn't that enjoyable, and it wouldn't have mattered who they were playing. Just the fact that Michigan won.
Well, exactly. and most importantly, were you able to bump into Hunter while you were there? Because I believe Hunter was at the same game, and I know the two of y'all are chums online.
Not familiar with who that is, so no, I didn't. I wasn't looking for anybody. Just was looking to enjoy
I'll accept that answer. That's a good answer.
To enjoy the game and hopefully see Michigan lose.
That's the high road. That what you're walking on right now is the high road. I know nothing about that place. Nothing.
However, not my first New Year's Six rodeo. This gets me halfway home, having previously done the.
But this was a big deal, though. The Rose Bowl. I mean, that's the creme de la creme.
It is the granddaddy of them all, for sure. I would probably echo sentiments that have already been echoed from previous years. Logistically, it is a nightmare to get there, because you got the Tournament of Roses parade in the morning, which a lot of people that go to that parade are not going to the game. So they
don't give a fuck about the game. They're parade people.
Right, exactly. They're there for the marching
parade
band.
People aren't. They're not football fans. Did you attend the parade? Did you?
I got there towards probably the last 35-40 minutes of the parade.
That's the best part, the end.
Caught that, and then thankfully I wasn't one of the schmucks that tried to take the shuttle buses from downtown Pasadena to the stadium, which is only from downtown Pasadena to the stadium. It's about a mile and a half.
Oh,
and I I walk when I play golf a lot farther than 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
So I hoofed it, and it was an easy walk, and it was a nice walk. It's very similar on the NFL.
California,
comparison.
the weather's pleasant.
Oh, the weather was
pretty
perfect.
people to look at. Yeah.
68 degrees, sunny. It was great. It's very similar, reminiscent. If you ever go to a Packers game in Green Bay, it's sort of like they took a huge football stadium and plopped it in a residential neighborhood. Because you're walking by all these homes, driveways, families saying Happy New Year, and you're kind of going downhill, and you get into this little mini valley.
So people were actually out, gathered outside to wish the people good luck and Happy New Year and all that. This is very Norman Rockwell.
It really was, and of course there were the street vendors trying to hawk.
This is the side of California that Southerners don't talk about.
Trying to sell their wares, and then there were just people selling food and drink along the way. So
it sounds like New Orleans. That has a very New Orleans vibe to it. If you've ever been down to Mardi Gras.
The food just isn't as good.
No.
So tell me, Sean, if you were walking and you wanted to buy a drink along the way, how much is going to set you back?
Oh, like $2 for a bottle of water.
Oh, that's reasonable. Yeah.
And then I think it was six.
What you're going to pay at 7-Eleven?
$6 for like a draft beer, and then probably $8 for like an import or a craft beer.
None of that sounds not too bad to me.
It's not. I mean, It's not completely out of line. The beer prices are a little high, but I'm out of touch with beer prices.
Oh, when you go anywhere like out of the norm, and you've got no other options, typically beer. I've seen a beer for $15 before.
Yeah.
I mean, the only issue I would say with that is like you got to remember, and I didn't, so I had to wait till I got to. You got to bring cash because most of them didn't have.
California is very cash friendly. My experience the last time I went, which has been quite some time, it's about 10 years ago, but I went to the Bay Area and was pleasantly surprised to see that all the restaurants and bars were cash only, and they all had ATMs usually within walking distance of the cash register, and they were making money off that too. It's a scam going on there. You need to open up a bar in California.
That's why the pot dispensaries are in Illinois, right? So you can't give them anything but cash, and then they got like 6 ATMs, right? So you go there to buy some dope, then they get $3 off from you on top of buying the dope. Now, I'm a veteran, right? I get a 15% discount though in Illinois.
So you kind of break even then on that $3, and depending on how much you're getting, of course, because I know that there's limits on how much you're able to buy in one.
Especially out of state, I think you can only get like 2 ounces, and it's over a month too.
Can you legally drive it from the dispensary to your house without fear of any kind of problems in any of the jurisdictions that you have to travel through?
No, because you got to go through Indiana and Kentucky. Through Ohio, it's a fuzzy area because they passed recreational, but they hadn't enacted it.
Yeah,
yet.
their legislators up there are really kind of bucking it. They don't want to legalize it quite just yet, and have put up a lot of roadblocks in order to prevent it from going all the way through, from what I understand.
That's right, and it's right across the river from me, so if it ever happens, it'll be a big deal.
Yeah.
So it was probably a good time to hit the bong in the middle of the game, Sean, because especially if you were looking for Alabama to show up.
We thought the scoreboard was going to light up a lot more than it did. That's for sure.
They definitely showed up. Alabama showed up, but they didn't show. I'm going to say this: Michigan was
a defensive struggle. Yeah. I think the halftime score was 13-10, and really neither offense had showed me much in the first half. But for the first Bama drive where I think we all, and I was sitting in the Alabama section, after that first drive, he got 7 real quick off the McClellan, TD.
Did you
run.
see Landon Beeman there? He was there somewhere.
Yeah,
I did not. I did not.
Paid like that.
I didn't know LB
he
was going to be there.
He probably just rode the plane with the team.
He snuck in and snuck out.
He didn't sneak anywhere. He's got credentials.
Well, I wish you would have let me know. We could have had a burger and a beer afterwards to watch the Sugar Bowl after the game.
You could have hung out with that Hunter guy that I was telling you about. He's a real nice fellow.
Get the fuck out of here, Shannon.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he is. Sure, yeah. And so yeah, it was to me at first when you scored pretty quick, made it 7-0. I thought, oh, okay, this could be a typical Bama performance.
I didn't believe that for a minute. I really didn't. I don't. There was just something really suspicious about that, particularly because that drive was. There were some question marks. Like, well,
we got some help we got help on field position there too.
Yeah, that was coming off the fumbled punt, and you set up good field position, and 4 plays later you're in the end zone, and it felt pretty good right there, and then.
Well, look, hey, before you say anything else, before we talk about any more of this game, because the person that I'm going to mention really quick is a key part of why it kind of fell apart, particularly on the offensive line for Alabama. Alabama center has just declared for the portal. So any teams out there looking for a good center, you can have him. Okay, let's go ahead and continue this conversation.
I think good is, you're using good in air quotes, I would hope.
And
I think Auburn should snatch him up.
We've had, I would love that. Yeah, they can have him.
Special.
They can. UAB can have him. Troy can have him. He can go to Georgia for all I fucking care. But yeah, a lot of the problems that Alabama's had on the offensive line have come square in the middle, right? Folks would say
it really did start in the second quarter. I think that was the first.
No, it started well before this game even was played.
Sure,
a lot of the problems that Alabama's had offensively have been just some completely just fucked up snaps the whole entire season. Nearly every game of the season
against the Auburn
has had some like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah, hey, that's why we were in 4th and 31 against Auburn, because of a bad snap.
Correct.
Right. Yep.
So
I was specifically regarding this game itself, but yeah, it's been a problem habitually. I think it was also a problem in the Texas game, if I recall.
It wasn't a problem throughout the whole game, but yeah, it was a problem at some very key moments throughout the game.
But other than that, the stuff that I've seen in the first half that really concerned me, and Alabama seemed to get over it in the third quarter, but only for it to return in the fourth quarter, was that they were preventing Milroe from climbing up in the pocket, and they were forcing him out of the pocket. And when Milroe was forced out of the pocket, he becomes one-dimensional.
I think we can agree the first half, the Alabama O-line wasn't sliding the protection properly, and Milroe got sacked five times in the first half.
And I don't know. And again, I don't know if that's something that maybe they went all the way back and watched the very first game against Texas or the game against Texas. I can't remember if it was the first game.
I think it was the second game.
Yeah. But they went back and watched that, and there had to have been some kind of look, some kind of movement, something that was throwing that O-line off. Because
they're probably not. Michigan's probably not the first team to look at that and say, "Hey, let's do this." But Michigan may have been the only team since Texas that had the personnel to do it.
I was
pushed Alabama around like nobody's business.
I'll echo those sentiments completely. Even though I don't care for Michigan, that's well documented. To give them a tip of the cap is both of their lines. They got some big boys on those
beefy boys.
Now I'm going to say this, and nobody's going to want to hear this, and I hope I'm fucking wrong, and I hope Washington proves me wrong. I'm definitely pulling for Washington. I've got my Washington pom-poms ready.
But you're betting on Michigan.
Fuck Michigan. I'm not betting on Michigan. I will not bet on the game. But I honestly, at this point, right now, I do believe this may be the best Michigan team I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Certainly the best team that Harbaugh has fielded. That's for sure.
I think the 97 team was better. I do think the 97 team was better than this team.
We'll see.
Simply because I think their quarterback play with, Brian Griese, take away his NFL time. Brian Griese was very good for them that year that they split the national championship with Nebraska. And J.J. McCarthy, he made some throws in this game, but he got lucky on a lot of them. His receivers bailed him out. The thing that surprised me the most was how good Michigan's wide receivers were. Cornelius Johnson and Romeo Wilson were, particularly that one towards the end of the game. I think it was the drive that Michigan tied the game with a touchdown. Their receiver Wilson caught it at about the 10, and I forget which Alabama safety was helping provide coverage with the cornerback, but it looked like it was an overthrow, and the Bama safety was in the position where if it was, that was a pick six.
Yeah, he was lined up for the interception. I remember that.
So then when the Michigan receiver caught it, he was out of position to make the tackle, and the Michigan receiver got it down to, I think, to the 3-yard line. Mm-hmm. And literally that catch was like an outfielder catching a snow cone with his glove and looking at it going, wow, I can't believe I caught that, because that's how high that ball was. Everyone in our side, we thought it was an overthrow, and that was going to be an interception. And it probably is a pick six because there was nothing but green grass ahead of, I think it was Downs was the safety for Alabama that was waiting on the pick. But again, hell of a play by the Michigan receiver Wilson to go up and get that on a poorly thrown. But McCarthy is, if this upcoming game is a game of quarterbacks, Washington is light years ahead at that position.
Well, hold on to that thought, and we'll talk about that after these messages.
Excellent.
Find us on the web at smackology.42web.io. There you can find our latest episode, or you can support the podcast by following our affiliate links at the top of the page. You can even buy some awesome Smacking Off merchandise. Again, that is smackology.42web.io.
We're here at Commonwealth Stadium, representing for the Kentucky Wildcats, right against the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And I'm live here, and there's fun and excitement going on. I know you can see that. This is Smacking Off, the podcast.
Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development, video editing, e-commerce marketing. You name it, there's a professional freelancer ready to make it happen. Filter your search by the service needed, budget, timeline, and boom! Fiverr provides a list of talented freelancers to meet your specific needs. Always know what you'll pay up front. No hourly rates, just project-based pricing. And because payment isn't released until you approve the work, you can rest assured that you'll be satisfied with the quality and get exactly what you want. Our support team is always available to answer questions or offer assistance when you need it. With the whole world of freelance talent at your fingertips, what might you achieve? Join today and find out. Fiverr. It starts here.
We're back. Madden's not back, but I'm back.
Welcome back to Smacking Off the podcast.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Washington game.
Well, I just want to kind of put a bow on the Rose Bowl experience, if I may, real quick.
Go ahead.
I would say if anybody does get a chance, to go, you should go. It's a long day, but it's a great experience. There's really not a bad seat in that stadium. The only gripe you can have is it takes a long time to get in and it takes a long time to get out. But when you're in there, I mean, it's a great experience. I mean, the highs and lows, you can really see the waves of emotion, and it has that college football vibe. So I understand why, Kirk Herbstreit is advocating for it to be the host of the national championship game, because it only does that game and then 6 or 7 UCLA home games. And it's a college vibe, no doubt, versus, a game that's played at a primarily NFL stadium. It's both bands were there. They played at halftime before the games. The one cool thing that they did do to also make it like a home game for both teams in the fourth quarter during TV timeouts. That was really the fans in the stadium's only gripe. We had 3-minute and 15-second TV timeouts at almost every turn. That was kind of annoying. But at the beginning of the fourth quarter during a TV timeout, they played Mr. Brightside, which is kind of the anthem that Michigan uses at their home games in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And then at another TV timeout during the fourth quarter, they played Dixieland Delight for the Alabama fans, which I know they do at Bryant-Denny. So the vibes were high and positive the whole time. So if you really want a great college football experience, I recommend doing it once in your life. Did you
see any Michigan fans singing along to Dixieland Delight?
Mostly during the Alabama fan chants that occurred during that song, which we're all familiar with. They had puzzled looks and asked after the song was played, "What were you guys chanting during the song?" And because we had a couple sprinkled into our section, and luckily the Alabama fans were kind enough to tell them what those particular
to interpret their southern.
Yes, yeah, but now the Michigan people they did tell me after the game at the bar, they go when that Dixieland Delight happened, and the whole Alabama side of the stadium was rocking, and I was in it. I mean, the energy was at a max level.
I don't get that excited about that. When they stopped using that at the games, I really could give three shits. I gave no fucks about it whatsoever.
I think if you've experienced a lot, you've been to so many Bama games, I think maybe you probably
Tennessee. Really, that's at the heart of my issues with this song. Is it's about Tennessee. I mean, why the fuck are we singing this song?
But
that's right.
But to others that aren't as familiar, they were like, "Wow, that really got yours." And that was right coming into that possession where it was 20-13 Alabama after that TV timeout, after Dixieland had the ball.
So you're saying, now, whoa, wait. So you're suggesting that Dixieland Delight was possibly why Alabama lost this game? Now that right there is the hottest take I've heard yet.
That is not what I love it.
I'm here for it.
Not at all. Not at all.
Doug, you are recording this, right? You're recording this segment. Excellent. Make sure that you use
Do not put words in my mouth. That's on the
reel. That one's going on the reel, and it stops right there at the end of it. And make sure that you put Sean Devon's picture and name underneath of it.
I'm not gonna lie, Madden. I wasn't even here to hear it.
Share that in all the Bama groups.
No. That is funny and fake. No.
That's what you said.
Whatever. What I'm telling you is the Michigan people that were in our section, after hearing that and seeing that the score was 2013, they thought their ship was sunk, that Bama was going to go down, either get a field goal or a touchdown, and that was the game. Yeah. That was going to be the game.
Which should have happened.
And that's what should have happened. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, my kind of thought was
there was no 4th and 31 in this game.
Towards the middle, even close to the beginning of the fourth quarter. And I know you had mentioned some people were giving Tommy Rees gripe, and I am too. I felt like
Nick Saban called him out in the press conference.
Because I thought
when asked about that call, he's, I don't know, Tommy made the call. It's like, you're the fucking head coach, man. This is the last play of the game, the most important play of this game.
That
wins this game, and you have no input on this. Are you fucking serious?
I'm talking about
Tommy. You're gonna throw it off on Tommy? Is Tommy losing his job at the end of the season? Oh shit.
I'm not talking about the last play of over. I'm talking about the entire fourth quarter. I felt Reese's play calling was far too conservative.
Well, and it was conservative for a reason, because Michigan was throwing them all around the field there at certain points in the game.
No, but on the drive that they got the touchdown to go ahead,
at that point
they were aggressive. And I always feel like as long as you're aggressive, I'd rather be aggressive than be conservative. The drive that they got the lead, they were aggressive.
But do you think that that's ultimately Tommy Rees's fault? I mean, that right there that style of play on the offense is something that Saban is just absolutely famous for, particularly in the early part of his tenure, before he started getting all these NFL quarterbacks.
I think Nick puts a lot of trust in his offensive coordinator.
But you also have to agree that he has some, and I'm just saying that the blame should not all be heaped on Tommy.
No. I'm not saying the entire blame should be on Reese, but
they're not moving in a great fashion, or if the whole entire staff sees a deficiency that they may need to shore up. I'm suggesting that not necessarily it was Tommy Reese's decision, or maybe Saban nodded his head and said go to Plan C, and Plan C is a little bit more of a conservative run-based stuff.
That's we'll never know the communications between Coach Saban and his.
But we do know the communication that Nick Saban told them news cameras about. Oh no, Tommy made that call. So I mean, we already know how this narrative is being shaped up.
Well, I think in previous, there is Coach Saban trusts his offensive coordinators. He has in the past.
I think Tommy Reese has done a hell of a job this year with what he's had to work with.
I would agree, but I do think he does own a little. Like, he was aggressive in the third quarter, and Bama on offense in the third quarter played a great quarter. I don't think there's any denying that. But then I think he decided to kind of turn off the faucet a little early in the fourth quarter. I mean, I don't like a run up the middle out of shotgun. If you want to run up the middle,
yeah, that's retarded.
Sean, he was acting like Alabama had a 17 to 20 point lead.
That's a perfect way to put it, Doug. Like, he thought this game was over. Let's salt it away. A 7-point lead is not a 17-point lead.
Especially not against the way that Michigan was playing in spots in that game.
Exactly. And the one thing you got to give Michigan credit for, even when Alabama got up by 7. They didn't fold their tents like we've seen Michigan teams in the past do. They kept fighting all the way to the end, and that's a credit to them. As much as I don't like giving them credit, they never quit.
So let's just go ahead and say the quiet part out loud, because it's been bandied about online quite a bit over the weekend. But we might as well go ahead and throw a little bit of it on this show. Would FSU had any kind of showing that even remotely close to the four teams that played there? I'm sorry, there's just FSU would have probably been your number 4.
Can I throw a caveat out real quick?
Please do.
I think if their quarterback Travis had not gotten his leg broken.
No. We're not playing what if in that fashion.
Yeah, that would be the only way I would say that Florida State, if they're completely healthy,
would be able to contest.
Right. Without him, even if they had all the guys that opted out, I still think Michigan and Bama beat Florida State probably by 14 points. I don't think they and I would say the same thing about Texas and Washington. Clearly the committee got this right big time. We had our 2 best.
Georgia proved that to the whole entire world. It was laughable for Kirby Smart to get up in that press conference after the game and sass the powers that be, and this is really good football team, blah blah this and that. Then what the fuck do you run the score up 60 points on them like that for, man? Come on. He could have put in the water boy in the third quarter.
I will say this. It was looking for a minute in the Sugar Bowl like Texas didn't belong, and we probably should have had Georgia in there versus Texas, because for a hot minute there, I thought Washington might run it up on Texas.
Well, that's why the game that lasts for 60 minutes. We've seen this with all of the contenders that at different points in time during the season that
it was bad clock management.
Looks like it's fixing to go away from them, and then 17-7 South Florida.
But I do think the committee got it absolutely right. This was, I think, in the history of the 4-team, which of course is gone at now this year, going to 12 teams next year. I think this was the best 2 games, if you put them both together, in the history of what will now be going away.
I think the scores dictate that.
If you go though to last year, those would have looked like the best games, but now we find out that TCU probably beat Michigan because they found out that Michigan was stealing signs and they changed all their signs.
Right. Yep.
That's the only way to make sense. That's the only way to make sense out of TCU going and looking so bad against Georgia.
But I will say this. It really, not only did the committee get it right, but Michigan, which it's been proven that they, cheated to help them win. I'm not going to say that cheating was the sole source of their winning throughout the whole season.
Sure.
But they did cheat to get here, but they actually had to play a complete solid 60-minute game in order to get where they're at right now. So,
absolutely.
And I don't think
Michigan erased, unlike FSU, and this is why I'm kind of going full circle with this. Unlike FSU, which did not prove to anybody that not only did they deserve to, be in the national championship playoffs, but did they even deserve to be in a New York Six Bowl? That was
no,
pathetic,
not at
man.
all.
That was awful.
Well, see, and people say, well, they had 25 people opt out. Well, yeah, exactly. And Georgia didn't have nothing like that. But
the reason they opted out is because they knew they were going to lose that fucking game.
FSU should have had enough pride. They should have had enough pride to say, look, we're going to go and we're going to play our ass off, and we're going to prove to the committee that we were worthy. Yeah. Even a close game, if they would have lost to Georgia, you would have still had some people saying, well, they may have been worthy to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, with 25 opt-outs, so that right there should tell you about the whole entire culture of that program.
Well, the heart of the team,
and cried, and then we got legislators throwing out lawsuits, and I mean, it is just a big old fucking bitch fest down there. And
I'm here for it. You got to the crux of the matter.
Makes me hard
with one word. I think that word is culture, and I think if Norvell was as great of a coach as he is, you would have seen a lot less opt-outs, and instead,
I think this has always been their culture down there.
Yeah.
The culture of Jameis Winston stealing crab legs. That's where we're at still with FSU and their culture.
To do that overnight, and I think I hope it, because the only one I feel really bad. I feel bad for Norvell, because I do think he's a decent coach. I think he's trying to do.
I think he should have tried harder. I heard that he sat down with the players and basically told them it was a meaningless game. Now I can't prove that he did that. That's just what I'm hearing, and I think.
Well, all of the bitching and crying and screaming that they did about not getting in the playoffs told their players straight up, a whole chorus of people, that any game you play that's not the playoffs this year is a meaningless game.
Let me tell you something, and y'all may agree with me. You may disagree with me. You may agree with me, but FSU went into the bowl game ranked number 4 in the AP. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's right. Let me tell you something. If FSU played their ass off and would have somehow pulled off the victory over Georgia, I think they had a reasonable chance, and I'm going to say about 25% chance. So at this point, they're 14-0, right? Mm-hmm. No, everybody said they deserved to be in the playoffs. They proved it against Georgia, and they're 14-0. I say that there's a chance they pick up enough votes in the AP to win the fucking national championship on the AP.
But the good news for us is that at 63-3 against Georgia, they picked up enough votes to win our live championship. All right, that's the only thing I fucking care about. So
hold that thought, guys.
They are undisputed consensus life champions.
Absolutely.
I love that shit.
All right, we'll be back here in a second, guys.
Let's do it.
You are now watching or listening to Smacking Off the Podcast. If you love it, tell your friends about it. If you hate it, share it with your enemies.
It was just a small gift from Mummy and Daddy. One, however, that would spark a bit of an obsession. It started out innocent enough, as these things always do, but quickly lit the fuse to something bigger. Mum and Dad encouraged other activities, but alas, had to sell things almost as fast as they bought them. Friends and family thought it was cute. It's just a bit of fun, they said. It's just a phase, they said. Well, it's all fun and games until your child is 34, still lives at home, and absolutely nothing has changed. These things should really come with a warning label. Buy, sell, eBay.
Welcome
34,
back.
34 and still living at home. That's Sky in the station, right?
That's right.
I'm just joking. Sky's probably 24.
I'm back.
But he will still be living at home when he's 34.
Who's that?
Sky in the station.
What's he up to? His Utes. What happened to his Utes?
I don't know. He was chatting. He was making comments earlier in the.
I believe they lost to Northwestern.
I know they lost to Northwestern. I believe what you're saying is true. Yes.
Okay, so give us some hope, Sean. Washington can beat Michigan, right?
I think so. Absolutely. In fact, I know you were talking about not betting the game.
That was a really good Texas team that they had.
I won't bet on it. I'm definitely pulling for Washington.
Washington is +5 right now. The early opening line. I would be snapping that up real quick. The one thing you can say about Washington, and if you watch the Sugar Bowl, Texas arguably has one of the best defensive lines in the country, with probably the best defensive tackle. And Washington had no problem with that D line. Michigan as a collective doesn't have anyone as talented as that D tackle, but they're going to throw bodies at you. I think Washington's O-line, if they can handle Michigan's D line, I think Penix is going to chew that secondary up. I think those receivers Washington has are going to be the best core of receivers. They've seen a good receiver before. They've seen obviously Bond for Bama was very good. Burton was good until he kind of got a little banged up. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best they've seen. But Egbuka didn't really show up that game. Neither did Fleming. Fleming went in the transfer portal, I think, today. But the collective of what Washington's going to throw at them, particularly with how fast and accurate Penix is with getting rid of the ball, I think is going to pose significant challenges for Michigan.
What a storybook ending it would be for Washington to win this game. With the
and let's not forget,
Pac-12
Washington's on a 22-game winning streak, and Kalen DeBoer, check that guy's resume out if you haven't. That guy just wins wherever he goes. Their head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lethal. He gets his teams ready to play in big games. So I don't think the Michigan fan base should be so quick to say, well, we're a 5-point favorite. We're going to win this one.
They've already penciled in the win.
Yeah.
How big is Washington's dick going to be when they get into the Big Ten as the defending national champion? They're going to begin their tenure in the Big Ten as the defending national champion. Ooh, boy!
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched Washington this year, I know their mascot is a dog, but really, they're a cat with 9 lives. This team never says die, ever. There have been games where you go, oh, they're going to lose. They don't lose. They find a 7th gear, and they win football games.
They're going to need 7 gears against that defense. That Michigan defense is there's some big old beefy boys.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the two key issues in the game: can the Washington O-line protect Michael Penix and create some running lanes for their tailback? And then conversely, on the other side of the ball, can they stop Michigan's running attack? If you can do that, Washington's going to win that football game. Because I'm still not trusting J.J. McCarthy to do it on his own and have to throw the ball 25 or more times.
Amen. And the people that are talking about, McCarthy's draft stock and this, that, and the other is absolute hilarious.
He doesn't throw a good ball.
Yeah.
He really doesn't.
He wasn't that great against Alabama. He really wasn't.
No.
The game was dependent more on their defense. Showing out the way that they did, giving their offense a chance to figure things out.
Yeah, the question is, can Michigan's defense put together another Herculean effort like they did against Alabama? On a fairly short.
Well, they seem to have the personnel to do it. Of course, Penix is a way better quarterback than Milroe is.
Right, he's just deathly accurate with his passes. I mean, he puts that ball where it needs to be for his receivers.
Which is exactly what he did all evening long against Texas.
Yeah,
I mean, he was dropping dimes.
So, I mean, if you're a you hope that Penix, I don't know, eats an unsavory meal before the game, has an upset stomach or something. But if he's as good as he was in the Sugar Bowl, as he was in the Pac-12 championship game, it's going to be a long night for Michigan's secondary for sure. And
which NFL team is Jim Harbaugh going to go to? Because really, win or lose, he's out of here.
I tend to agree with you on that. Which team? I don't know. The rumor is the Panthers and their big billionaire owner, Dave Tepper, might be making an offer to him. We'll see on that.
Tell me this: is Brian Kelly going to take his place there?
I don't think so, because I simply don't think Michigan can match the pay that LSU is paying Brian Kelly. I don't.
Right.
I think they'd have to come off with a insane offer to leave the 10-year, $110 million current contract that Kelly's at LSU.
So who do they get?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know.
Mark Stoops.
I think Gus Malzahn is waiting on that call.
Yeah, that's their kind of.
I think Bob said that because he's
staring at
because he
now.
wants Mark Stoops to leave, right?
Yeah.
Good time.
Oh shit!
I mean,
that'll definitely be an interesting thing to consider during the offseason.
Michigan State.
That's gonna be probably my favorite episode, because then we get to talk about Jim Harbaugh not being at Michigan or NCAA football.
Could you replace a Jim with a Jimbo? I know there's a Jimbo looking for a job.
He's expensive. The Aggies will tell you he's gonna cost you some money now.
The crazy part would be
go to Maui like Bruce Martinez,
I would say the crazy thing would be Michigan would be paying Jimbo, and he'd still be getting his severance pay from A&M. That was
how many teams looking for a head coach are going to be calling Dan Lanning in the offseason? God, he's at the top of everybody's list.
But it's going to be hard to get Dan Lanning because you got Nike money there at Oregon.
Yep.
And Phil Knight, he can spend with the best of them. He is also a billionaire.
That's that Air Jordan money.
So, I mean, but Dan Lanning, definitely a hot commodity. Kalen DeBoer, I think that if he wins at Washington, does he stick around is the question. And I hate to say that for Bruce, our buddy, the dog father, because they got a great thing going with Kalen DeBoer. He's a heck of a coach. But, one of these programs that has the dollars to spend, he's going to be a hot commodity if Washington wins the national championship.
Yep.
And he's going to lose. Penix is probably a top 15 pick in the draft. Maybe a top 10.
Washington's deep pockets. What is that, Larry Allen?
It's one of those Microsoft guys, right?
Yeah, who's the big money there? I would figure that'd be Larry Allen. And he's got crap all over Seattle.
But I don't think he was a Washington alum, was it? The Microsoft guys aren't Washington alums. I thought they were like Harvard.
But I think they're they're pretty community driven people.
Sure.
A lot about Washington's the national champion. I mean, wouldn't you want to throw some money to keep a national champion coach in your backyard?
I think it's a great story, especially for the four of us who've been in the college football game for. At least I think all of us are 30 plus years into this thing. 91 Washington splits the national title with Miami. Then in the mid to late 2000s, they completely bottom out with 0-12 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And to finally get all the way back, it's you can feel nothing but happiness for the Husky Nation that stuck around through the really, really bad times.
You definitely can't argue with the potential of this program because it keeps peaking back up. I mean, you keep seeing that this team has the potential to be an elite program.
I will tell you, I mean, we know that the South, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and LSU, and I'll add Texas because they're coming next year, are the keynote states for recruiting high school players. But I will tell you this, the Pacific Northwest, Oregon and Washington, is a sneaky good, third tier of high school talent. That DeBoer at Washington and Lanning at Oregon are tapping into. And that's why you've seen them get quickly better. They're keeping a lot of these players, in their home institutions versus, that's a key reason why I think USC isn't as good as it is. USC used to be able to go and get some of those players, and those players are staying home right now. Really, the big one that went with DeBoer because he'd coached him at Indiana was Penix. And I think what we've also seen is if you don't have the quarterback, you're not winning. Look at Clemson. You go from a Deshaun Watson and a Trevor Lawrence to whoever they have now. They're not.
DJ went to FSU. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I didn't see that. And
that's pretty funny. I like that one.
And it's tough for Alabama, but there is a drop off. You had Bryce Young, you had Mac Jones, you had Tua Tagovailoa. You got 4 NFL quarterbacks, and now you have Jalen Milroe, and behind him,
you didn't have to say it like that. He finished number 5 in the Heisman, you dick.
All right, so let's break it.
And the same is true with Georgia. The same is true with Georgia. They've dropped off a quarterback. You got to have the quarterback. If you don't have it, you really put a lot of pressure on your defense, on your special teams, and your running game to be special, and that's a hard way to win a modern football game. And we see it every Sunday in the NFL. The haves are the teams with quarterbacks, and the have-nots are the teams without quarterbacks.
Yep. All right, so let's break, and we'll come back and talk some college hoops.
Let's do it.
Support Smacking Off by commenting on, liking, and sharing our videos. Stay right where you are. More Smacking Off is headed your way.
I just received a marketing plan from a freelancer on Fiverr. It's great. And the way I'll present it will really take it to the next level. Check it out. Skills.
We're developing that with a freelancer, and it's excellent. It's probably my feedback that made it so good.
And you know who came up with the idea to use Fiverr? Liam. And who hired Liam? Me. Just to be clear.
Now streaming Smacking Off the podcast. You can keep up with our current activity on Facebook at Smacking Off or Smackologists. Find us on YouTube at Smacking Off the podcast. And stay right where you are. More Smacking Off the podcast is headed your way.
Hey, this is Kyle Golick of the Smacking Off the podcast. I'm at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You don't need to come to Springfield, Massachusetts. We got our own Hall of Fame analyst in Dr. Balls.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
What's up, Big Daddy?
Not much.
We're going to talk some college hoops. Now, you still with us, Sean?
I'm still here, man. Absolutely.
Absolutely, because
we're getting ready to really ramp up, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to really ramp up because everybody, during all this time with no classes, teams has been practicing. And they're trying to get ready. These are the dog days of college basketball season, right? We're winning a whole lot of games, but a few big ones like Marquette and Creighton. What did you think about that game, Sean?
It was exciting. It was Big East basketball at its finest. It gave me a lot of hope with the lead at halftime, but we struggled to win in Milwaukee. That's they play in the same arena the Bucks do, and they pack it for Marquette home games just like they do for Milwaukee Bucks games. And in the second half, we committed too many turnovers, committed too many fouls, let Marquette get back in it, and credit to them. They made the shots that were necessary. They won by 5. So, it was a great showing on the road, but going to Marquette and winning is still it's a tall order in the Big East. But that was a fun game. I was bummed my guys lost, but that kind of reminded me of a tournament game. That was a great game.
Absolutely
similar to your game with North Carolina. I mean that was a hell of a game.
Oh yeah, they finally in the second half somebody heated up for us and won it, because otherwise it wasn't really looking great. But North Carolina wasn't really hitting too hard either. But then at the end, they Dillingham heated up, and that I knew then when he heated up that we were probably going to win it, but I wasn't sure. It was tough, and I'm really interested in the Big East this year, and for one reason is both, in my opinion, UConn and Marquette can contend for the national title, and they're both in the Big East, right?
I completely agree. I mean, both have accounted themselves well through this early part of the year, which is mostly non-conference. I think Marquette was runner-up to Purdue in the Maui Invitational and had to beat a few difficult teams to get there. UConn won a different, preseason tournament around the holidays. Both are locked and loaded. Both have great head coaches and Smart at Marquette and Hurley at UConn. And UConn lost a close one at Kansas, and we know how tough it is to win and play at Kansas. So yeah, those are probably the two bell cows of the Big East. But behind that tier, there's 5 or 6 other good teams. So I think the Big East, the SEC, the Big 12 are probably going to be the 3 predominant conferences this year, and just behind them, the Big 10 and then the ACC. Simply because those two, while they have teams that are very, very good at the top, they just don't quite have the depth through the middle and bottom of the rotation. The Big 10 is, I would say, a little bit down this year, and the ACC, I would also say, is a little bit down. Not that that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're not at their epoch where you got so many teams that might make the tournament. Even though I did see a silly projection the other day. I don't know if you saw it, Bob, where they're predicting 8 teams from the Big 10 to go in. And so far, what I've watched of the Big 10, I don't think so.
And you know what? They did that a few years ago. I don't know if it was 8 teams, but I think they had 7 a few years ago, and then they all crapped out in the first and second round, right?
Right. Yeah. I think it's going to be like that year again for the Big 10.
Yeah, I agree. And
I think the best team in the Big 10 right now that I've seen is Michigan State.
Yeah, they fought hard. I've seen a couple of their games this year. Their hustle. They seemed confused early on offense about who wanted to score or who wanted to be the guy when it was time, but I think he's tightening that up right now. It's really interesting.
It's a benefit to them because they have Tom Izzo as their head coach, who he's a heck of a coach, man. You got to give him credit.
Yeah, if he can coach it. He can coach through the tournament well, and I have no doubt he'll be prepared to contend for the Big 10 title, because I like Purdue, but I just think Edey is slow of foot. I don't believe that nobody's played Purdue right yet. I don't believe that.
I know they're the number 1 team, but I just don't think their style of ball will translate in March to the tournament.
I don't either.
Whereas I think Michigan State, they've got better athletes than Purdue, and they can translate. They can play either way. They can play a fast-paced game, or they can play that slow Big 10 style where you walk the ball up the court. Whereas Purdue really wants you to play that slow-paced game, get the ball inside to Edey, and have him dominate. Well, there are guys that can handle Edey. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Now the team that I think is going to make the biggest noise, and I'm not doing this just because we're on the podcast. Man, Kentucky is exciting. I hope you're as excited for them as I am, because I've watched a couple of Kentucky
Oh
games.
God, he won't shut up about it.
I think Kentucky they're not getting enough credit right now. Come March, they're going to make a run this year. They're going to make a nasty run.
Now, they felt like underdogs because the NCAA, with their used the transfer portal in an unusual way to stop guys from transferring. And so we're one 7-footer down there and then another one due to injuries. So those guys are coming back, at least one of them. And then our graduate transfer center, who can also shoot three, right? Now, he has stepped up and shown some leadership. And then the young players that he recruited are actually as advertised. I mentioned Dillingham earlier. He comes off the bench and he looks like Vinny the Microwave Johnson. And that's how we beat North Carolina. So once the other 7-footer gets there, because size has been the only problem that Kentucky has. Now, they can run with any team in the country, and that's why I'm talking about Purdue. If let's say that Kentucky struggles a little bit in the SEC by our standards, which is under Calipari happens on a somewhat regular basis, but by the time the tournament comes, they can be so tight they can just run right through the SEC tournament. And I'm looking at the teams in the SEC this year, and especially Tennessee are well coached, and I think they'll take some regular season games that matter against Kentucky, a few random SEC teams. But
as I look at the SEC,
what's that?
As I look at the SEC right now, to me there are 5 teams that I think are truly dangerous. It's obviously Kentucky. I like Alabama. I like Arkansas. I like Auburn. And then I know they're a little. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just being. I'm trying.
Choose for Jesus, man.
Yeah, I'm unbiased.
I'll never live that one down as far as I'm concerned.
And it's Auburn, it's Arkansas, Alabama, it's Ole Miss, and then it's Tennessee, outside, and then Kentucky. Obviously, those 6, I think are gonna. I think I'm predicting Kentucky to win the conference, but I think it's going to be a dogfight amongst those 6 teams. I know Florida's sitting there with a good record, but I think Florida's untested at this point. The same is true with Mississippi State has a good record, but I don't think they didn't really play anybody non-conference. So to me, it's those 6, the 3 A schools, and then Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Those 6 are going to determine how the SEC, lives or dies this year. Not just in conference. I think those 6 teams are going to go to the NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah. Now,
and people are saying, well, why would you include Alabama? The record is Alabama's played a murderer's row of a non-conference schedule. They go everywhere and play anybody.
Yeah,
and so they're battle tested. They're battle tested.
That can't hurt you at all, man. One of my high school teams was predicted not to do nothing, and we played everybody early, and we split the first 10 games, but ended the season 26-7, and that's how I see Alabama.
I do too. I think Oates has got you went to Arizona, you went to Creighton, they played some other toughies. By the end of February, that Alabama team is not going to be a team that you want to face.
I agree with you.
Because they're so battle. And to me, in basketball, iron sharpens iron, man. You want to play a tough non-conference schedule. Then you play, obviously, it's power conference. You're going to play the SEC. The team that's not in good shape because they haven't played anybody, and they're going to join the SEC next year, is Oklahoma. Oklahoma was unbeaten. They were 10-0. They hadn't played anybody. And then their biggest win was USC. And I don't believe in USC, nor do I believe in the Pac-12. The only team that's coming out of the Pac-12 that's worth anything is UCLA, and Arizona. Okay, 2 schools.
But Arizona had a horrible loss. They lost 100-69 to Stanford. Right?
Well, you know the rule is never trust Arizona in March. So, but outside of those 2, it's like, okay, whatever. But Oklahoma hadn't played anybody. They finally played North Carolina. North Carolina easily took care of them. So I would rather play a very challenging, just as Kentucky did, a challenging non-conference slate. Okay, here's where we're good. Here's where we're weak. We can work on some things. Get ready. We're getting ready for conference play. Now we can show our conference opponents, how tough we are because we've played these other tough schools, not playing, Southeast Missouri State Clown College, and beating them 100-42. What does that do for you? To me, that doesn't do much for you because you're not going to be playing those teams in March when it matters.
It's like the game today that was most interesting to me was Seton Hall and Providence, right? And there's my dark horse is Seton Hall because I find they're gritty. Like you said, Big East basketball is tough. And I think Providence is a good team, and it was a close victory, 61-57. And
you know who Seton Hall's head coach is, right?
It's Pitino, ain't it?
No. Seton Hall's coach is the dude.
He's at St. John's.
He played. Yes, Pitino's at St. John's, but the dude that's coaching, his name's escaping me right now. He played for Seton Hall as a player.
Oh, I know what about. He was a guard there. It was just off the hook.
Yeah, and then I'm going to bring up a bad memory for you, Bob. But then he was the head coach at St. Peter's, the Peacocks, who knocked your Kentucky Wildcats out of the tournament.
Yes, I remember that. Now I know the guy. I know who you're talking about.
His name's escaping me
player
right
at
now.
Seton Hall. I'm trying to remember his damn name. It's killing me, right? Because he was just an all-world player at Seton Hall back in the day when the Big East ruled, and they weren't expected to do nothing. He took them pretty far, and it looks like it happened again. And that's the thing about the Big East
Shaheen Holloway. That's who it is.
Shaheen Holloway, man. He
was a hell of a guard for Seton Hall under PJ Carlesimo back in the day, and now he's their head man.
Mind.
Yeah.
PJ Now let's go back to Alabama, right? Do y'all remember when Littell Speedwell choked PJ Carlesimo?
Oh yeah,
I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you said PJ Carlesimo, that's the first thing I thought about was Latrell Sprewell choking the life out of that man.
No, he didn't choke the life out of him.
He tried.
Almost.
He
just tried to choke the life out of it.
Yeah, he did.
In court, that's totally different.
He was unsuccessful, thankfully.
Right.
Tried versus succeeding. Yes.
Because that would have definitely that would have really put a damper on the rest of his career.
I think Latrell just really didn't like whatever sweater Carlet, because he was known for wearing all those sweaters that were god awful ugly.
That man hates sweaters.
He hates sweaters.
Yes.
Sometimes I can't blame him. But I think college last night. I mean, Bob, did you watch Syracuse Duke last night? That was a heck of a game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Duke at the end put a little distance on it, but Syracuse was with them right there the whole time. And it really showed me that Syracuse is a little bit down talent-wise in relation to Duke, but Boeheim, who I actually detest.
Well, remember, this is Syracuse's first year without Boeheim. And I think Boeheim left the cupboard a little bare. I think it's going to take their first-year head coach, who I think is a good coach. I think it's going to get, it's going to take 2 or 3 seasons to get his recruits in, get his program going, because they don't run the 2-3 zone anymore.
Right. See, that was their whole problem, right? Even though it kept them in contention for championships, that they ran that 2-3, all it took was one white boy from Indiana to end their whole season, right? Or they I'm just saying, right? They stuck in that 2-3 zone. Tony Delk ate them alive in the national championship. There wasn't nothing they could do about it. And they
well, the 2-3 is easy. You put a big center at the free throw line, feed him the ball, and then cut, and the 2-3 cracks.
Yeah.
And then and especially if you got a guy on one of the wings that can knock down a 3.
That'll swing it from side to side.
Right. Yeah. Indiana could beat it too with the motion offense back in the day.
Well, you have to be patient. You talk Pete Carrillo kind of stuff here, Bobby Knight kind of stuff, right? You got to be patient to get that done. But no, that's better for Syracuse to move away from that and start their own mark. They can get the players they want. This guy started off; he's done pretty good. There's just a talent deficit between him and Duke, and the fact they hung as long as they did, I thought was pretty respectable.
I mean, I do have to say it's incredible that Duke now with John Shire at head coach, there has been no drop off in recruiting for them. I thought there was going to be. No, absolutely not.
But he was doing the recruiting, though. See, he was the guy that came to your house and talked to your mama,
That's true. That's true.
So,
but he's doing really well. So is, Hubert Davis at North Carolina. I think the conference that we got to look at that is sneaky going to be good tournament time. We're talking about it right now. We're barely into 2024. you got to stay up. I know it's tough for y'all in the either Central or Eastern time zones. The Mountain West Conference has got some dogs, man. They got some teams for sure. The Mountain West is kind of loaded.
Oh yeah, well, it's hard to get anybody back east to believe in them. So in the tournament, they're going to have to make that show because they do look tough, right? And St. Mary's is having a decent season. Now Gonzaga.
No, you're talking West Coast. I'm talking Mountain West. Colorado State, Utah State.
Colorado State just had a big win just earlier. Was it today or yesterday?
Yeah,
like number 20.
They're 13-1. Colorado State's ranked 13th in the country. That is a really, really good basketball team in Fort Collins, Colorado, that no one is talking about. No one.
Yeah, they're number 13, and they had a 45-point win, and then BYU is also looking pretty good, right?
Absolutely, which is good for them because next year, I mean, well, I think they already are. They're in the Big 12. I mean, I didn't think BYU would do as well joining the Big 12, as they did last year, and they're already good. They're doing really well.
But that's former Mountain West.
So, fellas, we've got everybody knows what we've got coming up Monday. We've got the big national championship game. What's coming up this weekend?
Alabama's not playing yet, so everybody can go ahead and clap and get it out of your system. And then root for Washington because nobody outside the state of Michigan is rooting for Michigan. I'm sorry, it's just not happening this year.
Too.
Yeah, the cheating motherfuckers. No, who gives a fuck, man? Who gives a fuck about Michigan?
Well, should we be looking at? I think everybody in this podcast is rooting for Washington because of our good friend Bruce.
Go Huskies! Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're behind Bruce Martinez 1,000%.
So, what do we got to look forward to this weekend in college basketball, y'all?
I think a game that is underrated is UConn and Butler. Now, I got to go back to the transfer portal games that they're playing with college basketball that they don't seem to be playing with college football in terms of granting eligibility and not, like a basic, and the 7-footers at Kentucky. This is a game the NCAA's playing that actually leads into Doug's wanting the NCAA gone and seeing a future final stand on who has authority on what. Because there's money in all this. And the Big East is able to make money, and they're doing fine with Fox. It's making plenty of money. It may not be making what SEC football is on Saturdays, but there's so many games. It's a constant stream of flow, right? So the NCAA can't cut down on the college basketball eligibility and be random about it and uneven. It looks bad on them. But anyway, I like UConn and Butler's a game I like. Illinois and Purdue is going to be a huge game, right? Marquette and Seton Hall is going to be a hell of a game. That's on Saturday. UNC and Clemson. Now, Clemson's playing right now. That's the game I'm watching, right? Clemson had the lead on Miami. Miami tightened it up at the half, and then since the second half, one of the transfers that they did allow in that had beat the same team of Florida State last year is now on Miami, and he scored more points than Clemson in the second half, and they've taken control. That's an interesting game. So Clemson, North Carolina is going to be a more interesting game than people think. And then you got Kentucky at Florida. Let's find out if Florida's any good. And I think the day for that is Saturday, January 6th.
It is. And I'm going to add one more game on that Saturday slate because I agree with every game you said, Bob. One more game. Ole Miss at Tennessee is Saturday. I'm excited for that game. And then Iowa State at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma might get caught napping. I know Iowa State's not ranked. But I've watched a little bit of the Cyclones this year. That could be a tough test for Oklahoma in Norman. And then, as we just mentioned with the Mountain West, if you can stay up late, Colorado State, 13-1, goes to Utah State, who is also 13-1. I think that's going to be a good game Saturday night. And, of course, all the other ones that you mentioned, especially that Illinois-Purdue game. That's going to be a war. As well as North Carolina and Clemson. I think we're going to find out if Clemson is for real. That's a home game for Clemson. So let's see if Clemson packs the gym and, doesn't let all the people from Chapel Hill take over their stadium, which does certainly happen at times in the ACC because we know North Carolina travels. But, this weekend's going to be a great weekend for college basketball. And, if you got nothing else to do, it's time to turn the page. We only got one more college football game. It's time to get into hoops.
Then you got Providence and Creighton. Providence and Creighton will be a great game.
That'll be a great. Absolutely. So this weekend really kind of starts the buffet that is college basketball until the end of March.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and invite everybody to come hang out with us 9 Eastern on Sunday. We're having the big national championship episode.
Will we be serving snacks for that?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Pretzels. I
Absolutely.
Make sure you put pretzels on the list.
I'm going to.
Bowl of pretzels.
Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready to go to bed so I can end
Let's
this?
do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're good.
Good night, fellas.
Good night,
Night, gentlemen.
Good night, brothers.
Thank you for supporting Smacking Off the podcast on the X's and O's network. Be sure to keep up with our scheduled live casts and other presentations on Facebook at Smackologists or at Smacking Off, and on our YouTube channel at Smacking Off the Podcast.